Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard
Poppy.
and welcome back to some NBA talk. We had no NBA talk on the channel last year at all, but I've got Hoppy and I've got Joey, who are both big time NBA fans. Grew up watching the NBA as one of their favorite sports. Hoppy's one of his favorite athletes of all time would be Steph Curry. You see the Warriors jersey, and then my buddy Joey, he'll be on. We're gonna bring him in and let him do some NBA talk with us as well. He's a big NBA guy. He's always been a huge Knicks fan, and so he's a big fan of Brunson right now, but. We'll get some fun NBA talk. Obviously, if you guys are here, leave a like, subscribe, comment. Helps a ton. I took a long time on this video putting this all together. I think that this is probably one of the better videos that I'll have put together with the way I've laid out my graphics and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And we'll go ahead and dive into this NBA season preview. Starting off with our first thing here will be Hoppy's Eastern Conference standings. Hoppy, I'll just let you go on teams 15 through 11 and why you think those teams are going to miss the playoffs this year.
Man, you look at a team like the Wizards and the Nets, and they're just still young. They're trying to figure out the pieces, all those sort of things. They're trying to still figure out who their main guy is, and I don't see them, especially not making a playoff push.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Bulls, they're a team kind of stuck in no man's land. They've been that way for a while. Got rid of Zach LaVine. Not sure it helped them too much. I mean, they didn't get too much out of that deal. I just don't expect them to go too far here. I mean, they're a team that's got some decent players. They're still holding on to Vucevic,
Yeah.
and they're still holding on to Kobe White, who isn't horrible. So I like them a little bit better than the first two teams. Hornets, really like them. They have a superstar in LaMelo Ball, but the question still remains, can that play translate into winning games?
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure they put enough defense around him. I don't hate this Hornet squad, but they need a little more defense and some more experience. And then you look at the most interesting team on this list, and that's the Pacers. They were in the finals last year.
Yeah.
They lost their best player, but out of all these teams, I could see the Pacers maybe making a playoff push even without Halliburton. They got a really good backup point guard that can fill in, and they got a team that works well together. So out of all these teams, the Pacers, I would give them the biggest chance of jumping outside of this group.
Yeah, and I'll have my own in a minute, so I won't talk too much here, but I fully agree with you. Out of those five teams, the Pacers certainly can make a playoff push. They have the players, they've got role players that have performed really well at times when they've needed to. And it's obviously going to be huge missing out on Halliburton and Miles Turner as he leaves them in free agency. And that's why, obviously, me and you both have them missing the play-in tournament. We'll move on to your number 10 and number 9, as these will be the teams you have losing in the play-in tournament. Tell me about these two teams.
Well, this team's got two big Duke boys. I'm a Duke fan, just in
Yeah.
case any of the people watching didn't know. They got R.J. Barrett and Brandon Ingram. Scotty Barnes is going to have to make that jump this year if they're going to go any higher than that 10 spot, and that's just factual. I mean, Scotty Barnes is a good player. He does everything really well, but he really needs to take that next step for this team to really do good. But the reason I have them right ahead of the Pacers is because they don't have to worry about figuring out what to do without their number one option. And I do like this well-rounded roster. And then the Sixers at 9, you're looking at a team that looks pretty well-rounded, but you just worry about injuries with
Yep.
them. I mean, they have a star on that team. If I knew Embiid was going to be healthy the whole year, if I knew Jared McCain was going to come back and play like he did last year, I'd probably have this Sixers team higher up on the list, but it's just too many injury questions with that unit there, man.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Injuries is what holds them back, and you never know what this team is going to do because of those injuries. We'll go ahead and move on to your number 8 and 7, as these will be the last two teams you have making the playoff, but they will win their play-in games to make it in, the Heat and the Bucks here.
Yeah, you look at the Heat here, and this is a true testament of how much I respect Eric Spoelstra. This team isn't nothing like the team that made two NBA Finals. They're
Mhm.
missing that big star in Jimmy Butler, but I really still like Bam Adebayo. Hero can still put buckets up there for you, and this team's just going to compete every single game because their coach is going to have a game plan that puts them in a position to where they can win some games despite their talent level. Like I said, if the Sixers were completely healthy, I think they would probably take this spot, but it's just too hard to predict injuries and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then you look at the Bucks. A lot of people are low on the Bucks this year, and I am too. I have them down at 7. But when you have a guy like Antetokounmpo, you're gonna make the playoffs. He's really well. He's a talented player, and then they picked up Cole Anthony. He might be a better fit with this team than Damian Lillard would. We don't really know yet how Cole Anthony can definitely come off that bench and give him some buckets. I like Kuzma a lot, and mentioning earlier, you mentioned Miles Turner. He's joining this Bucks team, gives the Bucks another play space and D big to
Yeah,
play alongside Antetokounmpo. We've seen that work out really well with Brooke Lopez in the past. So
yeah.
this team could come out there and surprise us and win a lot more games than I'm projecting them to. Really.
Yeah, and before we dive into the back end of my teams, I agree with you. Giannis and Miles Turner might be one of the better defensive front courts in all of basketball. I mean, that's an incredible defensive front court. They're going to block a ton of shots. They're going to be able to stop a lot of teams that have those two big lineups. And again, just to think of a team in my mind that I'm thinking of that's going to run out two bigs consistently is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're going to run out Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. This team is set to stop a lineup like that. So yes, they don't fit well against a lot of teams, but when you got Giannis and Miles Turner, you can definitely make things happen on the defensive end. And I think this team is going to be really, really well rounded moving into the year. They just have to find another star besides Giannis. I don't necessarily know if Miles Turner's a superstar. We'll move into the back end of my Eastern Conference teams. We'll give you guys our playoff teams top six in just a second. But I'm gonna start off with the Brooklyn Nets. I think they're the worst team in basketball. I think they have a lot to look forward to. They drafted four first round rookies, so when you've got that many first round picks, you got to hope you hit on at least one or two of them, and that could be really fun to watch. Igor Demin is one of those guys that looks really, really good. Had a great college season last year. They've got a former UNC guy. He's a Duke fan. I'm a UNC fan, so we don't agree there, but we'll talk about some NBA stuff together. He's down there. Drake Powell, one of the better defensive wings in all of college basketball last year. So we'll see what he brings them. And just overall, I like that team to be potential future team. But again, they're going to be really bad this year. Washington Wizards, that's my favorite team. I think we have a lot of upside actually, and I'm kind of glad that we finally did it and sold out and did the rebuild because it's necessary to do that. You know how it works in today's NBA. If you sit around and do what the Chicago Bulls do and be bad or be middling forever, you never win anything. So I'm glad the Wizards finally decided to do it. They went out, they got Alex Sarr, they got Bub Carrington, they got Kyshawn George. We've got some pieces that look pretty good. And I loved getting Trey Johnson. I think he's a guy that can push for a rookie of the year because of how often he's going to be able to shoot the ball. He could be our leading scorer as a rookie because they are going to give him the ball and he's going to shoot it a ton. He scored 20 points per game over at Texas last year, so I love his ability. With Chicago, you pretty much mentioned them in the whole. They have Vucevic, they have Kobe White. Those two guys are going to win you more games than what the Wizards and the Nets have. But the rest of that roster is kind of rough. They did bring back Josh Giddey to play some point guard for him. He played really well with the Bulls last year, but I don't know how much you can expect from that team. With the Hornets, I agree with you fully again. They have really exciting pieces. Brandon Miller could be awesome in the future. Con Knipple is going to be a guy that can compete for that Rookie of the Year because of the minutes he'll get. And LaMelo Ball is one of the better guys on one of these bad basketball teams. And then there's a world where he ends up somewhere else pretty soon. I don't know how much longer he'll want to play in Charlotte if they don't succeed. And then for Indiana, the same things you said. It's so hard to replace Tyrese Halliburton. He hit every single big shot in the playoffs. He got them to the finals on his back. I mean, when it mattered most, it was Tyrese Halliburton with the ball in his hands. And if you don't have that guy, I just don't know how good you can be. I think Pascal Siakam is a phenomenal power forward, arguably a top five guy in the league at that position. I think he can score you a lot of points, and they have some really nice pieces, but you also lost TJ McConnell. So now you're without TJ McConnell and Tyrese Halliburton. That's two of your best guards, and those guys are not going to be available to play Halliburton for the whole season and McConnell for a lot of it. So they're going to have to rely on those younger players to step in and do some good things. I could see them making the playoffs, but to me, that's just not a playoff team with what they have right now. And then also having to replace Miles Turner, who was a lifelong pacer. And so just a lot of issues that could cause this team to miss the playoffs. Moving into my number 10 and number 9 teams, the teams I'll have barely missing the playoffs, losing in that play-in tournament, will be the Toronto Raptors. Me and you agree with them being at 10. I think that they are a decent team. I think they're a playoff team, as in they'll make the play-in. But I just don't see this team having a superstar that can take over and win you a playoff game. Brandon Ingram is a really good scorer, but I just don't know how well this team will work together. Scotty Barnes, you're right, has to take a leap if they want him to be a superstar. I just haven't seen him do that yet. Defensively, he is really, really good. He can score, but it's just not at a super high level. Quickly, I don't know how much he can be a lead point guard. He's not the best passer in the world. So I just don't see him connecting this offense. You could see a lot of ISO ball with this team, as RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Scotty Barnes all would like to do so. Looking down at other key players, Grady Dick coming off the bench is a guy that a lot of people have mentioned could win a Sixth Man of the Year award. He is a really good sixth man, but I don't know how much depth they have after that. Colin Murray Boyles was the draft pick from this season. Expect him to be one of the better defenders in all of basketball, but I don't see him making too much of a difference on this team. And then for the Miami Heat, I'm in full agreement with you on Eric Spoelstra is an incredible coach, and I think that's why he gets this team into the play-in. But if I'm just looking at this team on paper, especially with Tyler Hero down with injury, who is scoring a basketball for you other than Norman Powell? Bam Adebayo can maybe give you 18, close to 20, but Davion Mitchell is not scoring in big numbers. Andrew Wiggins is not a scorer, and Kel'el Ware, we've seen some really nice preseason play, but he isn't going to score a ton of points either. So I just don't know how you score points. I think that they could be pretty good defensively, but until you get Tyler Hero back, this team is just going to be a bad offensive team. You go down and look at their bench players. Kasparis Yakuchunas was a draft pick from college. They got a really good steal in picking him where they did. Think he's a great basketball player. You could even see him starting over Davion Mitchell at some point this season. And then Jaime Jaquez, he's had some really nice runs as the power forward for them. But with the way Kel'el Ware's playing in the preseason, it's almost a guarantee he starts as center and they move Bam up to the power forward, which is probably where he's better fit anyways due to his height, being only about a 6'8" or 6'9". Center was a little bit rough for him, so now he gets to match up against other power forwards, and he's definitely athletic enough to do so. Like I said before, Tyler Hero, when he comes back, maybe this team turns it on and makes the playoffs, but I'm just going to have them barely missing due to him missing some big time minutes at the start of the season.
Yeah, before you move on, I just wanted to say I really like what you said about this team relying on defense. I really like this defensive build of this team. Mitchell's a good defender, and they're going to need Powell to hit some threes to win games before Tyler Hero comes back. So I like that. I like that little statement there too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real world where Norman Powell has to average 25 points a game for this team to score more than 90 points a game this season. So there is some concerns there, obviously. But you're right. What I said, what you said, defensively, they're going to be awesome. Moving on to the next two teams here, you're going to see some huge logos. The Celtics and the Sixers, two teams that, if you're looking at the Eastern Conference, saying these two teams should be at the top of it. But injuries, and that is what plays into both of these teams. I am worried that the Boston Celtics injury to Jason Tatum could be such a severe loss for them due to the fact that they have no front court play. They lost Al Horford in the offseason. They lost Tatum for most of the year. If he comes back towards the end of the season, I think he could be a difference maker. But do you really trust Chris Boucher and Nehemiah Queta to win you games? I just don't know if they can stop the team that's over here on this side. I mean, if Joel Embiid plays the Celtics right now, he's going to drop 50. So I just think that concerns me a lot with this Celtics team. They didn't really address the center position, and they didn't really address the loss of Jason Tatum too well. I do love Peyton Pritchard. I'm so glad he's stepping into that starting point guard role. He was really great as a six man last year. Derek White could be an absolute gem at the trade deadline if somebody wanted to add him to their team. I don't think the Celtics want to move him, but if somebody throws you a massive offer, he's going to fit anywhere because of the way he plays. He'll fit in any system, and you could get some really nice pieces in return if you wanted to try to build for the future. And then Jaylen Brown. Me and you have talked about how Jaylen Brown, he's an all NBA level player, and he can easily step up and be the star player for this team. I just have concerns that he isn't as good as Tatum. He just isn't. He isn't as defensively sound as Tatum, and he isn't as good of a player on the offensive side. But he's still a really, really good player. This is a top 15, top 20 guy in all of basketball, so can maybe carry this team. Looking at the other key players, Sam Hauser, he's going to have to step in and play some big minutes. Luka Garza is the guy they're taking a chance on to be their center. He was the college player of the year, so there's some potential there. He could bring you a lot of depth at the center position. And if he unlocks what he had in college, maybe he's the center that can go out there and play big minutes for you. But for now, I don't see it. And then they, of course, added Anthony Simons, who is going to light it up when it comes to scoring. But his defense is, you might as well just put an orange cone on the court. He can't guard anybody. And like I said, the Tatum injury will be what hinders this team. On the other side for the Sixers, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Kelly Oubre Jr., Paul George, Joel Embiid. You could argue that's a top five starting five in all of basketball. Tyrese Maxey showed how great he was last season when fully healthy and running. VJ Edgecombe is a phenomenal guard coming from the college level, where at Baylor, he was one of the best players in the country, especially for his age. Going to bring you super athleticism, great defense. Kelly Oubre can definitely play the small forward position and give you some points. He did it last year at times when they needed him to, and could put some buckets in the basket. Paul George, do I believe Paul George's career is actually over? What I watched last year would have told me yes, but the Paul George that I expected to show up for this Sixers team, if he shows up, they're going to be really scary. And then Joel Embiid. He is an MVP candidate when he is healthy. He is a top five player in all of basketball when he is actually playing the sport. Problem is, like you said, you never know when he's going to be on the court. And if he's available, this is a top six team. This will be a playoff team. But I've kind of built it into my prediction here that he'll miss games. He probably won't get to that 65 threshold to be an All NBA guy. So if he misses games, I have worries that this team just isn't good enough to win without him. You look at their bench, they do have Kyle Lowry, they do have Quentin Grimes, both solid basketball players there that can make a difference in the guard rotation. And then Adem Bona. If Joel Embiid misses time, Adem Bona will have to be your starting center, and I'm not sure if he's ready to step into that role. We'll see if he's able to do that this season. And like you mentioned, the injury to Jared McCain is just so unfortunate because last year it ended a really good year for him, and now he's already hurt again, and he's going to miss a lot of time. So I think the Sixers are really solid, and I think they could be a top five team in the East. But just with all the injury concerns, I'm going to have them sitting at number seven. Hoppy, we'll go ahead and move into your number six team, which is a perfect segue because we just talked about this team. What's your thoughts on the Boston Celtics, and why do you have them getting in and not having to play in that play-in tournament?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it's just culture. These guys know how to play together. We talk about big threes all the time in basketball, and this guy might have lost. This team lost two of the members of its big three, but they got Peyton Pritchard and Derek White and Jaylen Brown still, and they all three know how to play together. They mesh well together. Picking up Anthony Simons could be big for their second group, give them a little bit of stability when
Yeah.
that second unit comes in. I just really still think this team is going to have to show that they can win without Jason Tatum. I mean, it's going to be good for Tatum's legacy if they do bad. If
Yeah.
they do bad, Tatum's going to get a huge boost. And, people are going to be saying he was the one making this team look so good. But I just think this has really been a team effort. They play defense, they play ball the right way. And this team relies a lot on three-pointers to win their games, even when they were stacked. I think they're still going to hit a lot of three-pointers this year. The biggest question is, like you mentioned, who are they going to guard with these two big men out there? And that's the big question right now. I'm not very well versed on Nemus Queta. I guess I'm hoping he's going to come in there and play some defense for them here and put them into that sixth spot.
Yeah, and Keita just so happens to be one of Brad Stevens' favorite pieces on his team. He stated time and time again, I believe that if Nehemiah needs to step up, he can. So he's high on him, and if he's high on him, Brad Stevens is a great basketball mind. So I'll believe that he's going to be able to do some help with this roster. You talked about shooting and where it's going to come from. They added an awesome shooter in Baylor Shireman last year. He's now going to become a bigger piece of this rotation due to Tatum's injury. Maybe Shireman can add a really good shooting touch off the bench. And you expect Anthony Simons as a guy that can compete for a six man of the year if he's coming off the bench scoring 20. We'll see what happens there. Just to mention the injury report note that I gave here, Tatum obviously trying to make a return for the season, shown some workout videos with him dunking a basketball, doing squats, and with a good weight on his shoulders. And this is coming off of an Achilles injury that should hold him out for the entire season. But if he's already doing that, there's obviously something saying he wants to play. If he does return, it is a massive boost to the lineup and obviously makes them one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference come playoff time. If Jason Tatum is ready to go and he is a full go, not just a 20 minutes per game, this team could get scary. And so I think both of us have kind of baked that in with where we're picking them to finish because without Tatum, it would be some more question marks as you have him here at six. We'll move on to your number five with the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, some big additions here if you want to talk about them.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Kristaps Porzingis will fit with this team. I think he'll fit very well. I mean, Trae Young is one of the most underrated players in basketball. People forget that a few years ago he made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, carried that team on his back. People want to act like he's a ball hog when in fact he's probably a top five passer in the NBA and
Yeah.
one of those five people above him, is a center. So he's a top four passing guard in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's a guy who his career narrative is worse than the player he is. I would have Trae Young right on a level with a guy like Jalen Brunson in terms of pure talent. But obviously, Brunson has been able to show that talent a little bit more deeper into the playoffs. So he deserves all the praise he gets, not dissing Brunson. And then you look at the rest of this roster outside of those two big names. And Dyson Daniels, I've seen him on some defensive player of the year um, betting odds. So he's a good defender. The Hawks have needed to pick up their defense. You look at the bench. I like Alexander Walker. He's a
Mhm.
good all around player, can get you some buckets really quick. And then Luke Kennard, he's the best left handed shooter of all time. He's got a farther gap on left handed shooters than Curry does on right handed shooters. It's crazy. Luke
Yeah.
Kennard's field goal percentage. Just look up highest left-handed three-point percentage of anyone ever. Luke Kennard is number one. He comes from my favorite college, but he really is that good. I'm not overhyping him. And
Yeah.
then I like Jalen Johnson a little bit as well. He can be a rim runner, give Trae Young some lob opportunities, and play a little bit of defense as well.
Yeah, and I'll speak on them a little bit later. I may or may not have them higher than this, so I'll give my takes then. We'll move on to your number four team here in the Detroit Pistons, a team that made the playoffs last year as the sixth seed and did not have to play in that play-in tournament.
Well, it's as simple as this. This is the only team so far we've talked about where I like every single player in their starting five. Tobias Harris getting a little bit older. He can still give you a bucket. He's got a lot of good fundamentals. He might be the next Tim Duncan. Who knows?
Yeah.
Sar Thompson. He's better. People like to discredit him just because he's got a brother who's a little bit better than him, but he's still an NBA player, great defensive player.
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham really looking to take that next step at the
Yeah.
point guard position and become one of the better guards in the league. And he did really well in the playoffs last year. Levert is more of a scorer than an all around player, but he can give you some buckets. And then you look at this team. Durant and Isaiah Stewart are both starting level centers. I mean, if Stewart was on a different team, he would be in the starting lineup. He's got a little bit of a jump shot, so they can put him in over Duran whenever they need a little bit more shooting. But Duran's one of the most athletic centers in the NBA. He's really that athletic,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
shows on the defensive end. He's a little bit raw on the offensive side. And then, adding Duncan Robinson probably won't help too much, but it could end up helping them quite a bit, give them a shooter off the bench. And that's why I have this team the highest above all the teams I put before them.
Yeah, and again, I'll have them later, so I'll move on to our number three team here in the New York Knicks, a team that obviously changes head coaches in the offseason, and they look to fix the issues they had in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, and one thing I really like about this team, they're going to make the playoffs. They're pretty much set on that, barring any big injuries. And just like the Pistons, they have a solid starting five where you can count on every single one of the five. Mikal Bridges don't miss basketball games. He is the Cal Ripken Jr. of the NBA. He plays every single
Yeah.
game. These guys have some good chemistry together. They've played together for at least half a season last year with OG Anunoby coming in. And then, Mitchell Robinson can really be that big man that Carl Anthony fails to be, playing more like a JV intensity level when he's on the court.
Yeah.
And then on the bench, you gotta love Josh Hart. He is one of the best rebounding guards I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And Jordan Clarkson, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't he won Sixth Man of the Year in the past?
I believe so.
So
Yeah.
you've got two Sixth Men of the Year. Hart's not going to win Sixth Man of the Year, but he gives an impact off the bench as if he was a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. Just doesn't put up the stats to go along with that impact. But I really like this starting lineup. I think that they're pretty well locked into a four seed or higher, barring injury. The only team before them I can see passing them up is the Pistons and maybe the Celtics if Tatum can return really soon. But other than that, this team's pretty well locked into a top three spot.
Yeah, and I will give a quick take here on this. The injury report, I have it listed here. The Knicks are healthy. All these other teams, I've had things listed as potential injuries. They have a few lingering issues that could be, here or there, they might miss a game or two, but they have no serious injuries to anybody in the starting lineup, to anybody on their bench. So health is really, really great. The best ability is availability. So when you can play basketball, you're bringing more than the guys that can't. We'll move on to your number two team here. A lot of people are going to love this. as they've jumped up and created something here and become a really good team due to some offseason moves. I really like this team a lot as well. I'll talk about them later, but I'll let you go ahead now.
I mean, Franz is a good second piece, and then you look at Desmond Bain, he's also a good second piece. So we got two good second pieces here, and it's really going to be hard to decide which one is the second best
Yeah.
player. Because Franz brings you a little bit more on offense, whereas Bain brings you a little bit more on defense. And then you look at Paulo Banchero. He is an absolute beast. You can
Yes.
find those videos on YouTube of him doing the exact same moves LeBron James did.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's got a deep bag and he's a strong body and he knows how to play the game the right way. Not quite a LeBron with the IQ and passing vision, but he's got that frame like LeBron and he knows how to use that frame to get into his position. He can score in the mid-range, he can score driving, and he's not a horrible passer either. And then we got Jalen Suggs tightening down that defense and Wendell Carter just a model of consistency. I don't know if this dude has improved since his rookie year. He came into the league the way he was, and he's been that way ever since, but that's good. And then on the bench here, I like Tyus Jones a lot, a really good passer. Can really set other people up for their shots, and he's not going to look to do too much. And as well as Anthony Black and more, and the other Wagner on the team, they're both pretty good players as well. So this team's really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing some magic go down in Orlando this year.
Yeah, and I love that take there at the end, but also have to mention, do you just have them this high because they have a Dookie, and another Dookie there in that lineup? Is that helping the where you put them out of just a little bit?
It could be subconsciously, but in my front of my mind, I'm not thinking about that. I just really
Yeah.
like Paulo Banchero. I think he's going to really show people why he should still be hyped up. I think Victor being drafted shortly after him kind of got people's mind off of him, but he's been improving every year. He's done what we expected Scotty Barnes to do,
Yeah.
and he's a really good all-around player with a slight edge to the offensive side. He's not really a defensive monster.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. I was just playing with you. I think this is a really good team. You'll see where I have them ranked, and they're really close. Also, to mention quickly, new logo there. Orlando Magic changed their logo this offseason, got a new logo. Fresh look for what is a potentially fresh team and can be one of those top teams in the Eastern Conference. I'll mention some of these injury issues later when I discuss them. Moving on to your number one team, a repeat one seed as they were last year, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, this team, they did it last year and they got a really good starting lineup. The bench lacks a little bit, but Dean Wade can come in and hit some threes. Nance is a really good athlete to have coming off the bench, and Thomas Bryant has a good post game. The post game is a little less important in the modern NBA than it was 10 years ago or even 5 years ago,
Yeah.
but he had the good post game. And I really like seeing this team add Lonzo Ball. It's going to do a lot of good for them having Darius Garland out the first half of the year. And Lonzo Ball is one of the better defensive guards in the NBA if he can come back healthy and play for this team. And if Darius Garland comes back, if Lonzo Ball's doing good, we're going to have to figure something out because I really like his fit with this team in particular. The only thing that worries me is they're going to need a little bit of shooting with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, but they'll get that shooting back when Garland comes back
Yeah.
into the starting lineup. So I think this team is pretty strong to finish first. Not too much competition for them fighting for that spot either.
Yeah, and I will mention quickly, Darius Garland's injury isn't supposed to be a super long injury. Could come back within the next few weeks. The big injury is Max Strus, and you talk about shooting, and they need that kind of shooting. Max Strus is one of those top tier shooters that could really boost this team up. He's expected to miss a lot of the season. Has been seen in the boot during the preseason, so that injury is definitely concerning for this team. But they are still loaded, top to bottom. They drafted Tyrese Proctor, which was a big addition. There's another Dookie. He did well for them in the preseason. Expect him to be the backup point guard while Darius Garland's out, and him and Lonzo can definitely bring him a high-end defensive potential. And obviously, Donovan Mitchell has showed how good he is as a basketball player over the last few years, kind of taken over as his own team with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Moving on to my number six team in the Eastern Conference, going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. I trust this team a ton, and that's just because of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is arguably the best player in the NBA. It's him and Jokic. I think Jokic is still one, but Giannis is just so uber talented, and he brings you that defensive side of the ball as well. You could argue he's the best defender in all of basketball, him and Victor Wembanyama. And so when he brings you that intensity on both sides of the ball, I mean, you can definitely say he's top three on both ends. So he brings you so much. I love the additions of Miles Turner. I like the addition, like you said, off the bench with the Cole Anthony. I'll get a little UNC love there with him on the bench. And I'm glad that they were able to bring back Bobby Portis. If you've seen Bobby Portis come in the game, when it matters, Bobby Portis comes in there and can drop you 20 real quick or 25. In the playoffs last year, he was scoring 25, 30 a game in those series. So Bobby Portis is a legit scorer coming off the bench. Miles Turner, Giannis Antetokounmpo, two of the better bigs on the Eastern Conference side. I am concerned with this guard rotation. KPJ, kind of a little bit of a selfish player from time to time. Gary Trent isn't the best player in the world, but he can score. He can shoot you some threes, play some good defense. And then Kuzma. You mentioned it earlier. The Kyle Kuzma they got after trading for him was awful. He was one of the worst players in the NBA. If you get the good Kyle Kuzma, the 6'10" Kyle Kuzma that can shoot a three ball and play a little bit of defense, then this team has got a chance to be a little bit better than they were down the stretch last year. We'll say they are healthy, generally. No other issues other than Gary Harris, who seems to be good to go. He should be available on opening night. If he isn't, he'll come back soon, and he can definitely add that shooting touch off the bench as well. Talking about a few bench pieces, AJ Green shot 43% from three last season. That's incredible when you can bring him off the bench and shoot the three ball for you. And then Taurean Prince, he's been here for a while. You know him as a tall guard or a tall forward that can play defense and rebound at a high level. Expect he'll be a difference maker for this team as well. Moving on to the number 5 team here on my list, going to be the Detroit Pistons. Giving them respect for their spot that they made in the playoffs last year as the 6th seed, moving them up to the 5 seed. I think Cade Cunningham is a legit MVP candidate. That is how good he is. He can give you super statistics. He can play a little bit of defense. He's a big guard, brings you a shooting touch as well. Expect a lot out of him this season. Karis LeVert, like you said, for now is the starting shooting guard. But when Jaden Ivey returns, he's expected to miss the first 4 weeks. Had arthroscopic procedure done on his knee. When he comes back, he brings you unbelievable speed up and down the court. Him running beside Cade Cunningham is going to be so fun because they can just get up and down the court better than anybody. So I love him coming back to this lineup soon. Ausar Thompson, like you said, incredible defensive player. He does get overshadowed by his brother since his brother is so good, but I think Ausar can take a huge step, and this is a guy that can compete for that Most Improved Player award that we'll talk about later on. Tobias Harris is the statue of consistency. He will be there. He'll give you 15 or more a game. He's going to play okay defense. That's just Tobias Harris. I think he's a guy that if this team during the season wants to make a move, they can move a Tobias Harris, kind of a lateral move him somewhere else, get another piece that fits even maybe a little bit better. But again, he's here for now, and he's going to score you points when you need him to. Love Jalen Duren. Like you said, this is one of the better athletic centers in all of basketball. Dude is an absolute freak on the defensive end, blocking shots. Going to bring a ton of potential upside in the paint for this team. I love the backcourt on the other side when we're talking about the bench with Marcus Sasser and Chaz Lanier. Chaz Lanier at Tennessee last year, one of the best shooters in the country, coming into this season as a rookie, can be an instant shooting threat off this bench because they don't have a ton of shooting options. Marcus Sasser, incredible defender, one of the best in basketball. Bringing him off the bench is going to be a big difference maker as well. And now he's got a little bit of time under his belt in the NBA. You mentioned Duncan Robinson. This is a guy that can light it up from the three-point line. He has done that his whole career. That also adds a shooting touch. And then Ron Holland, a guy that was drafted, expected to be a potential top 3 pick before that draft happened. He drops a little bit, but has all the potential in the world to become a guy that could maybe even start over Tobias Harris if he reaches the full potential. So I love this team. Think they're going to be really good, and they're going to be even better when they get Jaden Ivey back in about 4 or 5 weeks down the road. Moving on to my number 4 team, going to be the Atlanta Hawks. And call me crazy, I love this team. I think that they are so good top to bottom, especially that starting lineup. When you talk about a front court of Jalen Johnson and Kristaps Porzingis, we're talking about elite scoring potential with those two, but also defensive potential. Kristaps Porzingis is underrated at how good he is as a shot blocker. He's just so tall. He's not a freak. He's not this super athletic guy. He's not this super strong guy, but he's 7'4", so he can block shots and make a difference in the paint, but also stretch it out and shoot threes for you. Jalen Johnson, if he didn't get hurt last year, he was going to have one of the best seasons a Hawk has had in a long time besides Trae Young. Zachary Rissache, they added him, of course, last year in the draft at the first overall pick. He's been pretty good so far. He's a great scoring option, and he's a 6'11" small forward. Tell me how teams are going to match up and guard that front court of Johnson, Porzingis, and then a 6'11" small forward in Reece Shea. Like you said with Dyson Daniels, the great barrier thief, as they call him, because he led the league in steals last year, and he's from Australia. But Trae Young, you mentioned it before, one of the more underrated guys in basketball. He can lead the league in assists this season. He's that good passing the ball, and he now has better options to throw it out to. And then you look at the bench. Luke Kennard brings you a shooting touch. Nickeil Alexander-Walker brings you elite defensive ability with a shooting touch. Asa Newell, a draft pick that they had this offseason. Big power forward that can play in stretches if Jalen Johnson suffers any injuries. And Onyeka Okongwu has been here for a few years, backing up Clint Capella. He now gets to back up Kristaps Porzingis and can still be that elite backup center. There's not a lot of great backup centers, so he brings you the upside there at that position. Looking at health, this is another team that has availability, and that is so important. They are healthy and should be ready to go for tip-off. They have had some minor injuries, but it's all day-to-day stuff. So we expect to see this entire team on the court and going early in the season for the Hawks, and I expect they'll be atop the Eastern Conference standings come to the end of the season. Moving on to my next team here in the Eastern Conference, I have the 3 seed as the Orlando Magic. I think that they are going to be a lot better this year than they were last. I think they were the 7 seed last season. Of course, they made huge improvements to the starting lineup, adding Desmond Bane, one of the better shooters in the league, but also brings you defensive intensity, like you said earlier. You have Jalen Suggs, who is one of the best two-way guards in the NBA. Franz Wagner is only going to get better as the seasons keep going. Paulo Banchero, who highlight to later potentially could be one of those top 15 players in the NBA later this season. Wendell Carter Jr., I think that's their weak spot in the rotation is the center position. But they don't have a bad center. I think Wendell Carter's a fine center. He's brings you some upside and potential. Then you go over and look at that bench, and they have Mo Wagner, who is, of course, the brother of Franz Wagner. Mo Wagner is a good player as well. He's going to bring you defensive intensity, but also last season averaged 12 points a game, and he didn't do that in a Wizards uniform. But he's unlocked something here. I think playing with his brother probably helps too, because you get the little family connection there. Tristan da Silva, of course, as a younger player, if you watched him play in college, he was a hooper there. He can add some depth in the rotation at the power forward position. And then I love this guard group they have here. And Tyus Jones, a veteran who never turns the ball over. When he was with the Wizards, he had like 7 assists per game and less than a turnover per game. So unbelievable with the ball in his hands as a playmaker. Jace Richardson, incredible player, of course, the son of Jason Richardson. Very, very good player, going to bring you defensive upside and scoring ability. And Anthony Black, a huge guard that can play even down to the small forward position if necessary. Looking at the overall injuries, good health in general. So another team that has good availability. Suggs going to have a slight knee issue. Wagner could have some knee problems as well. But again, early in the season, that shouldn't plague them too much, and hopefully they can stay healthy as the year goes on. I think that's why they'll end up as the 3 seed. Moving on to the 2 seed. Surprise, surprise, I'm going to have a team not finish as the 1 as they did last year. I'm at the Cleveland Cavaliers finishing as the 2 seed. I think adding Lonzo Ball was a huge addition in the offseason, especially with the injury of Darius Garland. Even if he just misses a few weeks, they needed a point guard to fill in that spot. Lonzo can do that. He's not going to score a ton of points, but he can shoot a 3 ball pretty efficiently, and he's going to play really good defense as a guard. Donovan Mitchell, no, nothing really needs to be said. This is an MVP candidate. He's that good of a player. DeAndre Hunter, after acquiring DeAndre Hunter last year, this dude was nearly a 20-point per game scorer, and if he does that for them this year, this team could be the 1 seed, but I expect him to still be really, really effective and a great player. Evan Mobley, a guy that I think is one of the best defensive players in the entire NBA and can bring you scoring upside. And then Jared Allen, one of the better bigs, good rebounder and a great defender down there in the paint. You look at that bench, there isn't great names on the bench. Thomas Bryant is an okay backup big. Larry Nance, a solid power forward backup. Dean Wade can bring you some depth. But they drafted Tyrese Proctor, and you as a Duke fan knows that Proctor can bring you really high scoring upside, but also he's a big guard that plays really good defense. He can still get in the passing lanes. He's good at stealing the ball when he's on ball defending. So he should be a really good piece off the bench to play defense for
And
them.
he knows how to play with quality NBA level players. That team was a stacked roster he was playing with at Duke, so he was not really out there just with the team on his back. So he knows how to play as a supporting player.
Yeah, and he had multiple years in college as well, so he has experience already coming up to the big leagues. You go down and look at the injury report. We talked about it when he was highlighting his team as the 1 seed. Darius Garland and Max Strus are missing time. Garland's going to miss a couple weeks, but probably not a lot of time. Strus is going to miss a lot of time. He has a boot on his foot right now. He's unhealthy. He was supposed to be one of the better shooters on this roster coming off the bench, so that's a huge loss to them. But luckily, it's not a starter, and as long as all the starters stay healthy, you shouldn't miss him too much. And hopefully, that bench unit can kind of pick it up without him there. But again, they need Garland back to be a top three seed. I think once he arrives, that's where they'll be at. And then move on to my number one seed. It's so hard to repeat as one seeds in the NBA. I think the Knicks are a really good team. I love that they changed the coaching staff just because the players are going to be healthier, but also Mitchell Robinson is healthy to start the season. It's been a long time since Mitchell Robinson has been able to start the year healthy, and you know it as well as I do. Cat is 10 times better as a power forward because he doesn't have to guard other big men and he can also still stretch the floor out and make a difference. And it just eliminates that weakness that the Knicks had as him as a center is he can't guard anybody. He can't guard a big. And Mitchell Robinson, he might be one of the best in the NBA at getting out there blocking shots, rebounding at a high level. I love this lineup defensively now because Brunson's a pretty good feisty guard. Mikal Bridges is a good small forward or shooting guard. And then OG Anunoby's an incredible small forward defensively. So they can hide Cat's defense with some really solid defense from a few other positions. You look at their bench, Miles Deuce McBride going to bring you the point guard minutes off the bench. Then if Jordan Clarkson, I think you mentioned it when we talked about him earlier. He was a six-man candidate, and they now have Josh Hart, who is an awesome six-man candidate. So we have multiple guys that could be a
Pretty
six-man
good.
here, can come off the bench and make a real difference. A few names that you didn't mention earlier, Dottie, who was drafted last season, can be potentially better this season because of the lack of playing time last year. And then Gurshan Yabusele. Yabusele is actually a pretty good player. If you've watched some preseason basketball, this is a 6'8", 6'9" forward center player that can play really good defense, has some pretty good athleticism, has dunked on a couple people, and obviously they are expecting him to become that guy off the bench as the backup two or backup 4 or 5. It'd be interesting to see how they use his minutes this season. They have some lingering issues, but nothing serious, and they should all be good to go come day one. This is looking like a really good team and my favorite to win the Eastern Conference. Hoppy, you got anything else to say about the Eastern Conference before we move to the West?
I'll say one thing about this team on the screen right now, man. You gotta hate seeing that Villanova squad getting broke up right after it formed. I hate to see DiVincenzo not on this team competing with them. But outside of that, man, I feel like we were pretty similar. Top three teams were the same, different order, but same three teams.
Yep.
Those are the three obvious favorites for this Eastern Conference.
All right, we'll slide on in to the Western Conference. Hoppy, taking a look at your bottom five teams missing the playoffs. Why do you have these teams here?
You mentioned earlier that you thought the Nets were the worst team in basketball. I think the Utah Jazz are the worst team in basketball. Just really in a rebuild right now. You got to hope some of them young guys can pan out on that squad. The Trailblazers, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do bringing back Damian Lillard this year. I like some of their pieces. I like them a little bit better than the Jazz for a future sense. I think they got some young guys on that squad, especially some guards that can really blossom. As far as the Suns go, it's going to be exciting seeing D Book step back into almost the team he got drafted to, but with a little more experience. I think he can put up some nasty stats this year. I don't think the Suns are going to be a bad team to watch. And if Booker can get hot, he could have one of those games like he did a few years ago where he dropped
70?
closest anyone's got to Kobe's record.
Yeah.
And then this Kings team, I don't hate them. I really like their center out there in Sabonis. And Keegan Murray, I'm looking forward to seeing how he'll do. And the Pelicans, I really am excited to see Zion this year. I have them at the top of this group because I'm really excited to see how Zion can do. He's looking really good in the preseason. And I'm a Duke fan. Duke Zion was just a great player. He's a team player. He really is. He can get you points without needing to hold the ball an entire possession. He can get the offensive board and put it back up if he's back to the old Zion with that just beastly best athlete I've ever seen in college, honestly.
Yeah, and quickly I'll say this. Again, I'm going to have my own bottom teams to look at, so I'll talk about them in a minute. But I agree with a lot of what you have here, but I will say there will be some differences, and they will probably stand out in a big way in just a second. We'll move into your 10 and 9, which will be your two teams in the play-in tournament that you believe will lose. not make the official playoffs. You have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, the Grizzlies, they just seem like they've lost a lot of their identity, losing Bane, who's a really important piece for them both defensively and offensively. I still like this squad, John Morant playing on the team, and then of course you have Zach Edey, who's going to start the year off hurt, as I see on the prompt there. But he could maybe come in and just be some size for him. But I'm not. I mean, Jalen Wells doesn't get me excited. Caldwell Pope, he's an NBA player. I'll say that about him. KCP. He can play in the NBA. I mean, that's impressive. But he just doesn't get me up out of my seat. John Morant and JJJ, they're good players, but they need a little bit more pieces around them. And then as far as the Mavericks go, man, I feel like it's a little bit iffy, kind of like with the Sixers. You don't know what you're going to get from Davis and Kyrie. And I actually am hopeful that Davis and Kyrie will have good years this year, but you just never know with those two pieces. Klay Thompson, he can still shoot the ball, even though he might not be the same player he used to be. And D'Lo, he's a really good sixth man. Once Kyrie comes back, he could be, if Kyrie can come back soon enough, he could be slotted in that sixth man conversation. So this was a hard place for me to put the Mavericks that low on the list, to be honest with you. I think they're going to be really good. But that
Yeah,
West is just really deep.
yeah, quickly, that's exactly what I was going to say. The West is so deep that this team on the Eastern Conference side, especially with Kyrie Irving, would probably be a top five seed, maybe even top four. And because the West is so deep due to the injuries as well, you have them just outside the playoffs. Now we'll look at your play-in teams, the teams you believe makes the play-in, gets a victory, gets into the playoffs. It could be scary because again, 1 through 8, the West is so good. What do you have here with the Rockets and the Clippers?
Right here with the Rockets, I'm looking at this team from last year, and they've lost a few players, with Fred being out for the season, of course. But this team has just added Kevin Durant, and to me, Kevin Durant makes the playoffs. I
Yeah,
mean, he's got a track record of doing that his whole career. And Amen Thompson is a great defender. Sengun is a really good big man. I mean, if it wasn't for Jokic, he would get a lot more appreciation for the things he's doing. It's like he's almost Jokic has bred these other Jokic
yeah,
clones after he
yeah.
came, and you got Sengun and Sabonis out there playing a lot like him. But either way, I like Jabari Smith to take a step. He can really space that floor. And then I'm thinking of Min Thompson's going to have to step up into that playmaking role for him this year and help out Reed Shepard, the young guard on the team. But I think he can do that. And this team just seems like a lock for the playoff with KD as old as he is and Sengun and Thompson carrying the load for him.
Yeah, and quickly, I'll say something before you get to the Clippers. With Amin, the first game of the season, the Rockets are running a lineup of Amin Thompson at the 1, KD at the 2. Again, Kevin Durant, 7 foot Kevin Durant at the 2. At the 3, Jabari Smith. At the 4, Alperen Şengün. And at the 5, Steven Adams. That is the five-man rotation they're running. They are playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you kind of have to prepare for Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. And so their answer was, we're going to play our two big men as well in the starting lineup. And let's see if you can guard Kevin Durant at the shooting guard position. So that is interesting as we'll see what happens when they run that lineup out there. What do you have to say about that and the Clippers?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see that working out for him. The reason it works out so well for the Thunder is because Chet Holmgren moves like a forward who just gets hurt a lot easier. And teams have tried this before, and it's normally, a one game, let's try it out thing. Uh, I think it would be very smart if they were down 2-0 in a playoff series and
Yeah.
needed to try something out. So I think it's smart to see how it does work for those matchups, but that's not going to be a permanent thing in my mind. But on over here to the Clippers. I got them in the 7 spot, and they're kind of another one of them Sixers things. You don't know how healthy they're going to be. But, I feel like John Collins, although he has fell off a little bit, he's still a name that just rings in my head as he can do something. They got Bogdanovich on the bench. Brooke Lopez can give him a few minutes for some shooting. Zubac has just turned into a great player. I
Oh, yeah.
remember back when he was in the G League, actually. I had a buddy who was just a massive fan of Ivica Zubac for no reason. He was a Kobe Bryant fan too, and he was telling me about him, and he was right. He's
Yeah.
really turned into a good player. And after Leonard, the way he plays in the playoffs every year, I feel like he's going to play just enough games to get them to that level. James Harden, still a great player. Whether or not he cares about the regular season as much as the playoffs, Who knows?
Yeah.
He might care about it more. I really don't know what's in his mind, but either way, I think this team will be the seventh seed.
Yeah, and I'll talk about them in just a second as we'll get to mine, so I'll leave that to talk about it then. We'll go ahead and dive into the back end of my Western Conference, where I'm going to have the Utah Jazz also as the worst team. I'm in full agreement with you there. I think they are that bad. I just think they have a chance to be better than the Nets, a little bit better than the Nets, just because they have Lauri Markkanen, who is a top 50 player in the NBA. If Lauri Markkanen gets dealt out, this team might win 5 games after the trade deadline. I mean, they are that bad. They are full of young players, though, so there's a future there potentially if they can hit on some of those players they've drafted. I've also got Phoenix really low. I don't trust this team at all, other than Devin Booker. Sacramento, again, what happened to this team? They fell apart, traded everybody away, and just kind of collapsed. Their starting lineup could actually be pretty good. You have, of course, Zach LaVine. You have DeMar DeRozan. You have Domantas Sabonis. You have potentially Keegan Murray when he's healthy. He just signed that huge extension. So could be a really fun starting lineup, but I don't know where the bench minutes are coming from on this team. With Memphis, I'm not as high on them as you were making the playoffs, but you didn't have them too high. You had them at 10. I don't think they make the playoffs. I think injuries is a super scary thing for them. They have multiple players that are missing big minutes. Jaren Jackson Jr. seems to get hurt every year. Ja Morant has his own issues. We won't address those necessarily, but off the court, he's had a lot of those problems. And then we move over to the Pelicans, and you talk about injuries. This is a team that if they could stay healthy, who knows? Who knows what they could be? But they are injured every single year. They're going to start the year without DeJounte Murray. When he returns, maybe he adds a boost to this roster. He could definitely change things at the point guard position. I do think they added Jordan Poole in the offseason from the Wizards. Jordan Poole, contractually, horrible, but the player on the court can give you 20 points and be a decent passer. And then again, you're right. Zion Williamson, when healthy, is a freak. He is an absolute freak. There's no way a 6'8", 300-pound offensive lineman should be able to dunk and rebound at the level he does, run up and down the court the way he does. He is a freak of a player. It's so much stress on his body to be able to do it. So hopefully he's lost some of that weight. He has a more fit body ready to go for the season. But again, if he's fully healthy, he's a 25 point per game guy that rebounds like the best of them and can play some pretty good defense. He can definitely make this team better. I just don't think they make the playoffs. Moving into my top 10 teams, of course, the two teams I believe will lose in the play-in tournament. Surprise here, you had them at 14, I have them at 10. It's the Portland Trailblazers. I think defensively, this is going to be one of the best units in the entire NBA. Other than OKC, I can't think of a better starting five defensively. Drew Holiday, Shaedon Sharpe, Deni Avdija, Tumani Kamara, Donovan Clingan. Drew Holiday, one of the best point guard defenders in the NBA. Shaedon Sharpe, just improving as a player. Deni Avdija, one of the storylines I've talked about before, though, with Avdija, when he was with the Wizards, locked down LeBron James, held him to under 20 points. You don't see many players being able to do that. That just shows his defensive upside and ability. Tumani Kamara was All NBA second team last season, just proving once again how good he is defensively. And Donovan Clingan is one of the best defensive players in the NBA. His rim protection is unbelievable. He's one of the better defensive centers. You look at this bench. Jeremy Grant brings you unbelievable scoring upside as a Six Man of the Year candidate. Young Hansen, one of the best prospects in this draft that nobody expected to be, getting picked at 16th overall. Portland taking the swing, and they're hoping they hit a home run on him as an overseas prospect. And Matisse Thybulle, a guy who literally started an entire season scoring 4 points per game because of how good he was defensively. They only get better when they add back Scoot Henderson and Rob Williams. I think this team is a sneaky playoff team. It will lose, but I like the future for this team, especially with all the young talent. Moving over to the other team, I think will lose in the play-in tournament, and that is the LA Lakers. Part of the issue here is I think they're going to start the year kind of under the rope a little bit. They're going to fall below the red line because LeBron James is missing the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season. They've relied heavily on LeBron for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and the older he gets, the harder it is to just rely on him. I think Luka is going to be able to shoulder a lot of that load, but they don't have a great front court. They don't have great depth. And the West is so deep that the Lakers, even with a superstar and potentially a top four player in the NBA and Luka Doncic, I just don't see them being as successful as they want to be. Austin Reeves is a great player behind Luka, but the rest of this lineup, and Rui Hachimura, a guy that has looked better at times but also struggles. Jared Vanderbilt, defensive nightmare but doesn't score. And DeAndre Ayton, a failed center that he's trying to make it last in the NBA. And if he finds something, maybe Luka can unlock him potentially because of his passing ability and maybe create a lob threat out of Ayton. But I just don't trust Ayton at all. And then you look at their bench. Gabe Vincent is a guy that he had one great playoff run and hasn't been great since. Jake LaRavia, an addition that they made in this offseason, could be one of the better bench players on this roster. And then Dalton Connect, who, of course, was unbelievable at Tennessee in college, but just hasn't really shown the super upside you'd like to see from him in the NBA. You look at their draft pick, and Adou Thiero, going to miss time, potentially half the season. And LeBron, like I mentioned before, is going to miss 4 to 5 weeks with a back injury. And if you know anything about your injuries, you don't want a back injury. That is one of the more serious injuries that will linger with you throughout the season. If LeBron misses time, I don't know how much I trust this team to go out and win games this year. Moving on to our number 8 team, I have Dallas Mavericks making the playoffs, being that 8 seed. You were saying how you thought they were good enough to do this. I think I'm just going to have them sneaking in there. D'Angelo Russell filling in for Kyrie Irving. Obviously, he's not Kyrie, but he's not a bad guard that can play some vital minutes at the point guard position. Klay Thompson can still light it up, like you said, from the 3-point line. Cooper Flagg is going to be one of the best rookies, if not the best rookie in all of basketball this season. He's a defensive nightmare, but also can bring you scoring upside on the offensive side of the ball. Anthony Davis loves the power forward position. That is where he's always wanted to play at. That's where he's playing at with the health of Derek Lively. Expect Anthony Davis to be a real difference maker and potentially a defensive year player of the year candidate. Derek Lively, again, when healthy, can be a defensive nightmare and can also catch lobs from anybody because 1 through 4 are all pretty good passers that can set him up to catch lobs. You look at the other key players, Max Christie, who come over in that Luka Doncic trade, going to be good depth at the guard position. Najee Marshall, who proved to be very important last year with injuries to Anthony Davis and other bigs, and PJ Washington, who could be starting, but Anthony Davis is moving over to that power forward position. And maybe PJ Washington is a six man of the year candidate to watch out for. Was really good 2 years ago for this Mavericks team. Looking down at the injuries, Kyrie Irving is the big one. He's coming back from an ACL tear. We have no idea when he returns, but when he comes back, this team gets scary. They just have to be able to hang on and let him return. And I love this Mavericks roster. I think that when he's back, they're a top 6 team in the West. It's just they have to kind of suffer without him for a little bit and let D'Lo take those minutes. Daniel Gafford has an injury as well. He's the backup center, so without Daniel Gafford, I don't love their rotation at the center position. They'll need him back as soon as possible. You go over and look at this Clippers team, and health is the biggest concern. They've had injuries amongst the entire lineup at points. Kawhi Leonard, there's no chance he plays 80 some games this year. You're just hoping you get 50 plus out of him. If he's healthy and plays that much, you saw how good he is. I mean, the playoffs last year, he was incredible. James Harden, still a great passer, still can connect the offense. And Bradley Beal, an absolutely underrated addition in the offseason, brings you a crazy good scoring shooting guard, and now he doesn't have to be relied on heavily. He is maybe the third best player on this team, fourth best player on this team, so he doesn't have to go out there and do something every night. He can be just a scorer for you. Love John Collins. The addition is a good piece, an athletic guy, the power forward position that can shoot the ball a little bit, but also play good defense. And Ivica Zubac, like you said, has become one of the best players in the NBA. He's one of the better centers. He's defensively really, really good. He actually gave Jokic one of the best matchups I've ever seen anybody give Jokic. He guarded him and guarded him pretty well. He had a couple games where he made Jokic look a little bit like a human and not an alien. So that's how good of a player he is, a difference maker for this team. You look at their bench. Chris Paul and Brook Lopez, both older players, but also bring you veteran bench depth. Chris Paul can definitely lead that second unit, and if there is any injuries to Harden, potentially Bill, Harden could shift down to the 2 spot, let Chris Paul run the point, or if Harden's out, Paul can still run the point for this team. Bogdanovich, potentially a trade piece due to his contract, but also is a great bench scorer, averaged over 10 points a game last season. And like I said with Brook Lopez, you get the defensive intensity, you get the 3-point shooting from the big spot, and you also get some point scoring. Love this Clippers roster. Again, they're in the Eastern Conference, they're a top 4 team, but the West is loaded. Hoppy, let's look at your number 6 here in the LA Lakers.
Yeah, and I see you had them quite a bit lower there, and I'll have to explain myself. And I got 2 words for you, 2 names really. Luka Doncic, the dude. He's a really good player. He's the second best offensive player in the NBA, and in my opinion, the third best player in the NBA, point blank. Period. You look at this team, like you said, not too exciting. I am expecting Aiton to have a little bit of a resurgence, but you talk about LeBron James being out, and to me, he's the third best player in this roster when healthy. Reeves is really coming into his own. Doncic is coming into his own, and his whole MO is sometimes I watch him play, and I'm like, this guy's passing too much. He will pass up wide open layups to get a guy 3-point shot because I think he knows the importance of getting guys in their zone and getting them a feel for the game. And he led that Mavericks team all the way to the finals. I just can't see them missing the playoffs this year with Luka Doncic on the team. Also with Marcus Smart on the bench, giving them some decent minutes. I like Gabe Vincent as well off the bench, and Connect. He can certainly shoot the ball, but
Yeah,
not much else from him.
again, great scorer in college does bring you that upside. Of course, you're seeing the injury report. I talked about it once already. Going to start the year on the injury report, expected to return until mid-November. So if they fall behind at all, that could definitely hurt them this season. And then Jackson Hayes, they have already pretty weak center depth. Jackson Hayes starting the year on the injured reserve, and Adou Thiero, who was their rookie draft pick. They wanted him to be this defensive nightmare coming off the bench. Not going to be available to start the season. Just hurts this Lakers team who just isn't very deep. I mean, you look at this 10-man rotation, and a lot of teams have a lot better 10-man rotations. But the starter in Luka is obviously a difference maker to make them in your playoffs. Moving on to your number five team, the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, I really like Victor Wembanyama. I didn't like the amount of hype he got as a prospect, just simply off the fact of I think there are a few other people that can definitely compete with him for that best prospect spot. But he's really, in my opinion, going to come into his own. And once he comes into his own, the only question is going to be is how long can he stay healthy? If he stays healthy and he hits his prime, he's going to be a terror for the league to deal with, and the roster around him has some decent names. I mean, Keldon Johnson a few years ago was getting time as the main player, the
Yeah,
number one option. So he
yeah.
has experience as a number one option. Harrison Barnes won a ring, and then the year after that, he missed every single shot and lost us the ring. I swear to you, Harrison Barnes in that second Warriors championship, dude, he could not hit the broadside of the barn. But he's a veteran scorer, and he can really go out there and when other people are having off nights, he can step up. And then Devin Vassell, also a name I really like. You look at De'Aaron Fox missing a little bit of time, but I think that once he comes back, this team will really hit their stride. And Sohan will give him some good minutes when he comes back, especially on the defensive end as well.
Yeah, and again, you look at this bench, they added Dylan Harper, the number two overall pick in the draft. This is a kid that would be starting pretty much everywhere else as a guard, as a point guard, especially on any of those bad teams. It's crazy the Spurs got such good luck in the draft a couple times in the last few years. Landing Dylan Harper. Jordan McLaughlin is a gritty guard coming off the bench. Carter Bryant, another draft pick that they made, is going to be a defensive nightmare, a really long, lanky armed guy that can play defense. And Luke Cornett, a really underrated addition to this team. There's a real lineup potential where they run Luke Cornett and Victor Wembanyama as the front court, which will be a scary good defensive front court for them. Moving on to your number four team, the Timberwolves.
This team is a team that I really like their bench here. DiVincenzo, he's starting on a lot of teams, really, really good there in New York in his limited time there. And then Naz Reid, big sixth man of the year candidate there. And then you got some names in that starting lineup that ain't too shabby themselves. I mean, we got Anthony Edwards. A lot of people out here think that he's Michael Jordan's son based on how good he's playing in the NBA. And Mike Conley, although he's really old now, he does what he needs to do for this Minnesota team, which is kind of calm Anthony Edwards down and lead the group out there. Julius Randle, that's another name that needs calm down. But when he can stay within himself, he can really score some buckets for you. Jaden McDaniels, everyone loves this guy, man. Yeah, your favorite Hooper loves Jaden McDaniels. He's got a deep bag. He hasn't quite found out how to use it yet in the NBA, but he's really got a lot of skill that's a little bit too raw to be shown. And then Rudy Gobert, I don't know too many people that like him, but he keeps winning these awards for some reason. He's getting benched in the Olympics, but he must be some sort of NBA defensive wizard because he's out here getting more defensive player of the years than all of your favorite defensive players.
Yeah, again, this guy is a freak defensively. He does block a ton of shots. He rebounds the ball well. Don't watch him shoot a jumper though. That won't go in. You talked about Jaden McDaniels. Anthony Edwards once said, "They got Kevin Durant. We got Jaden McDaniels." So he's pretty hyped. He said Jaden McDaniels is Kevin Durant. So You know, Anthony Edwards loves him as his teammate. They're going to expect Terrence Shannon to step in a huge way with the loss of Nall on the bench and to kill Alexander Walker. And again, this is a team that is relatively healthy. No serious injuries holding anyone out. Expect them to be able to roll as the season goes on. Obviously, moving on to your next team here, number three in the Western Conference, the Golden State Warriors. Soppy, give me your reason why.
Yeah, this is my favorite team in the NBA, and I really like their depth this year. We got Gary Payton back again, really good defensive bench piece. Buddy Hield can definitely stroke the three ball a little bit, and he is a little inconsistent with it, but when he's hot, he can really be one of the best in the league at it. Kuminga has spent a lot of time in the starting lineup for us. He's probably wanting to go somewhere where he can kind of start again. But I mean, whether or not we trade him or not, he can give us some valuable minutes off the bench. And then we got to start and line up the best off-ball player of all time, Stephen Curry. He's unmatched off-ball with the gravity, the movement, all of it. He's amazing. I really like and am excited to see Jimmy Butler here for kind of a full season, really settled in, see how he can do. And I think Al Horford can really give us something at the center position that we've never had, which is a really good space big. We've normally relied on shooting at the guard positions to really create all of our space. And I'm really excited to see how this team will work out this year.
Yeah, and I'll talk about them again in a little bit. I have them in my top six as well. Quickly to note on it, Moses Moody is going to be out a little while with a calf injury, but looking to return potentially soon. He'll be the backup shooting guard, potentially even the starter if they want Pods to come off the bench again like he was last year. And then DeAnthony Melton, a guy that was supposed to be one of the most important bench pieces on this roster, unfortunately faces a knee injury, will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. And he obviously would look to return to the lineup whenever he comes back from that injury. We'll move on to your number two team here in the Denver Nuggets. We all know why you got them here.
This is just a really good team here. Nikola Jokic is still on this team. We got Jamal Murray still on this team, and a lot of people might be concerned with MPJ leaving this squad, but I'm really not. Nikola Jokic has turned Aaron Gordon into a 40% three-point shooter. Jokic just sets up his men right, and he plays basketball the right way. When he was just coming into the NBA, interviewer asked him, and he said, I don't really run, I don't jump. I just pass the ball. I get my teammates involved. So that was really smart by him, and he still plays that way to this day, even with all the stardom he has accrued over the years. Really exciting to see them bring back Bruce Brown, who was on this team. Really played a pivotal role in their championship season.
Yeah.
And, Jamal Murray might not play the whole year, and he's a decent player who gets a lot better in the playoffs, but I just really don't think this team's going to slip too far any season where Jokic is on the roster. He's going to get them up in a high seed.
Yep, and I've noted it time and time again. When you look at the injury report down here, you see a lot of teams that have long lists of injuries. The Nuggets are healthy. They have nobody hurt. Nobody's even really day to day. So they're full bore, ready to go. I think that is a big advantage for them that they're going to start the year with the entire team ready to go for the season. We'll move
And
on to number one.
excited to see Tim Hardaway and some shooters around Jokic too. Really going to be good for him. Cameron Johnson from your favorite team, UNC too.
Yeah, and I'll talk about them more in a minute when I get to them. They're obviously in my top two as well. Moving on to your number one here in the OKC Thunder, the defending champions.
Well, this seems pretty obvious. They are the best team in basketball. Let's just talk about defense first. We got
Yeah.
Dort, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. And fun fact, those three are all guys that made uh, the defensive teams last year, except for Chet. I might not have played enough games to
None
make
of
it, but he's
them.
definitely up there with the metrics in terms of defense. And actually, matter of fact, Alex Caruso might be the best defender on this team.
Yeah.
Uh, Alex Caruso, last year in terms of just raw metrics, he was the best defender in the NBA. I mean, you could say limited minutes helped him be able to be more efficient. But this team's just insane defensively, and then offensively, they're another whole different story. We got the best scorer in the NBA, more than likely, in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, probably going to lead the league in scoring again. Definitely has the highest odds to do so according to the betting odds. And then they got other scorers on this team too. Chet can really score the ball. Jalen has turned into an all-star.
Yeah.
Dort, not much of a creating score, but he can shoot the three ball for you. And Hartenstein adds even more defense. This team's just really hard to score on, and Shea is just really hard to stop. And when you do stop him, you're going to hear that whistle in your nightmares.
Yeah, and this is a team that when you look at the injury report down there, it is a little bit scary because not necessarily is it scary for them. It's scary for the rest of the league if these guys get healthy. They don't have Jalen Williams for opening night. I know I have him in the starting lineup, and that is because he's only projected to miss the first game of the season. When he returns, that's obviously a difference maker from day one to the second game of the season. But then they can add Isaiah Joe back, who was a crucial piece in the postseason, was actually potentially going to play some games, start some games for them. Nikola Topic, who was their pick in last year's draft, is supposed to be one of those prospects that comes from overseas that has a high level upside in his passing ability. He could play a role. Kendrick Williams did play a role as a starter in the postseason last year at times, or coming off the bench for them. And then Thomas Sorber, unfortunately, he is going to miss the entire season. This was their really high upside center pick because when you look at the backup big, that is the one position they're not super deep at. And the other Jalen Williams, who is an okay player, but he's not anything special off the bench. Thomas Sorber is a freak defensively. So they really wanted to have Thomas Sorber available for this season. He is going to miss time, though. And it shouldn't limit this team too much, though. They're loaded, top to bottom of this roster. We'll move on over to my top six teams, starting with number six in the San Antonio Spurs. I'm up there with you on thinking this team is making the playoffs without having to play in the play-in. I love this starting lineup of Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Julian Champagnie, and Victor Wembanyama. I think Wembanyama is going to be a great defensive player, if not the best in the NBA, but also I think he's going to score over 25 points per game and give you the real scoring upside on top of that. Makes him an MVP candidate. That level of defense with 25 points per game offense, he's going to rebound great as well. I do think that Julian Champagnie is just a placeholder in the starting lineup when Jeremy Sohan returns. I think he takes that spot. Harrison Barnes could potentially start for this team a lot of the season just because of his scoring ability. He is a bigger small forward, around 6'6", 6'7". Can play that position, give you some points, shoot the three ball for you a little bit. But if they want to move off of him and move into younger options, they could slide Devin Vassell down to the small forward position and start Dylan Harper or start Stephon Castle and move De'Aaron Fox into the point guard position when he returns. So a lot of lineup flexibility. You look at the bench, Carter Bryant, Dylan Harper, both young pieces that are going to be great for this team, rookies that they were able to go out and get in the draft. Love Keldon Johnson, like you said, has the defensive ability, but also was a leading scorer on this team at one point. And Luke Kornet, a really underrated offseason addition that can give them some minutes at the big spot, but also play some power forward and start for this team if they want to run the two big lineup, especially when they're playing a team like the Thunder that have those two bigs. And Wembanyama, you were talking about how, maybe Houston can't do that because Sengun and Adams aren't really stretching the floor. Wembanyama can stretch the floor and play the four and play like a power forward if you need him to, with Kornet starting at the center. So that could get interesting. Like I said before, injuries are a real big question mark. De'Aaron Fox and Sohan expected to miss some pretty big time. And Lindy Waters will be out for the near future. Could return later in the season and add another little bench guard that could get some minutes and can shoot a little bit for them. We'll move on to my number five spot here in the Golden State Warriors. I am high on them as well. You have them at three, I have them at five. I think a lot of people wouldn't even have them in the top six, which is a little crazy to me. I think that they added Al Horford, which is a huge addition to this team. Al Horford's actually a very underrated defender for his age and his size. But on top of that, he stretches the floor from the big spot. Like you said, they haven't had that since Draymond Green in 2016 hit 200 three-pointers. They haven't had that at that position. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Draymond gets to move back to his natural position of power forward, where he's arguably one of the best power forwards in the NBA defensively. Jimmy Buckets is Jimmy Buckets, and when it comes playoff time, he'll be getting those for you. In the regular season, I do think he kind of tones it down, only averages like 18, 19 points per game. But when he gets to the playoffs, he's the man. Love him defensively. And then those two guards at the top of the lineup. Talk about Pods first because he's not the Hall of Famer. He has a really good upside. He can be the starting shooting guard until they want to replace him, or maybe he takes that spot and runs away with it and becomes the guy beside Curry. And then Stephen Curry. This is the best shooter in the history of the NBA, and it's not close. It is also, like you said, the best off-ball mover in the NBA, and it's not close. And Pods can actually play the point guard as the shooting guard. Pods is the bench point guard anyway, so let him run some point and pass the ball off to Curry and let him hit those threes. I love that combination in the backcourt. And again, their bench, you talked about it. They added Gary Payton back, who was incredible for the Warriors. Buddy Hield, when he gets hot, he is extremely hot. He could actually really argue with Curry as that 3-point percentage. Sometimes it's higher than Curry's because he can shoot so well, but he is a hot and cold player, so you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Jonathan Kuminga will play for them, but I assume he's a big trade piece later in the year. Look for what they get in return. They could get a really solid backup center or another big. That could really help this team. And then Trace Jackson Davis and Quentin Post, both younger forward center options. Quentin Post stretches the floor, had some big games for them last year, and Trace Jackson Davis was a great player at Indiana in college and brought them some upside at the center position as well 2 years ago. You look at the injury report, I mentioned it before, Moses Moody out, DeAnthony Melton out. Those guys return, they add more depth in the backcourt. Moving on to my number 4 team in the Houston Rockets. A huge surprise. You have them all the way down at 8. I have them at number 4. I am extremely excited to watch Reed Shepherd take over as the point guard. I think Amin Thompson will make another jump and not just be a 14-point per game guy, but give me 18 plus and be one of the best defenders in the NBA, if not the best at the guard position. I think Kevin Durant is out here to come out and average 25. I think Kevin Durant is ready to be a superstar once again, surrounded by a ton of talent. He doesn't have to be a monster on the defensive end either, and he's not actually a bad defender. People kind of give him that because his size, but when he's playing small forward, he's not playing a bunch of big guys, so it helps a lot to be there. Jabari Smith, I think, like you said earlier, is taking another step to become an even better scorer. And Alperen Sengun will be a top 5 center at the end of the season, maybe top 3. Mark that down. I think he's that good. He is baby Jokic. If there's anybody that is as good as Jokic at all those high ability things, I just don't think he's as good when it comes to scoring. But give me baby Jokic to have a breakout year. Love this bench. Aaron Holiday, Josh Okogie, underrated guards that can help out this team. And if Reed Shepherd isn't the starting point guard, who knows if they run out that big lineup we talked about earlier with Amin Thompson at the point guard. Tari Eason is a defender that can really bring you some high defensive upside. And then Dorian Finney-Smith, another great defender. If you remember his time with the Nets, he was really, really good. And of course, he's brought upside to the Lakers with his defensive ability. So I think he can be a great player there. And then Steven Adams. I love Steven Adams as a backup center. This is a guy that, with his size and his rebounding ability, you're not losing anything when Sengun has to take a break on the rebounding and the defense. So I love Steven Adams being out there. They also have Clint Capella. So they have 3 centers that are true centers and really not going to play the other positions. But of course, like it says down here, Capella is facing injury at this time. The big blow to this team that I would have maybe had this team as the 3 seed. The big blow is losing Fred VanVleet. That is a huge loss, but they need Reed Shepherd to step up, and I think Reed Shepherd can do it, as you'll see a little bit later on in the video. I may or may not believe in him more than most. Moving on to my number 3 team here in the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a team that has Mike Conley at the point guard position, a veteran that knows how to pass the ball, play good defense, and shoot the 3 ball a little bit for you. They have Jaden McDaniels. That is Kevin Durant light, as Anthony Edwards would tell you. They have Julius Randle, who I think is going to be an all-star this season. Scoring upside is really, really high. In the playoffs, he had some great games. He didn't fit the Knicks system, but when he come over here, he's fitted a lot better, and he scored very well in the playoffs at times. And then Rudy Gobert, like you said, this guy offensively is a cone. He can't do anything except for dunk the ball or get a offensive rebound and put a layup in. But he is a monster on the defensive side of the court, especially when you have the level of defenders you have around him. Anthony Edwards is a great defender at the guard position. Jaden McDaniels is one of the best at the forward position. And Rudy Gobert can win you a Defensive Player of the Year. The big thing for this team is they have to have guys step into the roles that they've never had to step into. Rob Dillingham has to be your backup point guard. He has to be the dude at that position. Terrence Shannon Jr. showed absolute flashes of excellence in the playoffs, but late in the season as well. I think he steps into that Nickeil Alexander-Walker role. Love the pick of John Behringer as a backup center. Of course, he's a prospect from overseas, close to 7 foot, if not 7 foot. So maybe when Rudy Gobert needs some spells, Behringer can come in and do that for you. And then Naz Reid, who I think both of us might agree might be our 6th Man of the Year candidate later on when we talk about that in this video. Naz Reid is phenomenal coming off the bench. I don't think there's anybody in the game that is better. And last but not least, like I mentioned when I talked about it with you, I'm going to talk about it again. They're healthy. They're fully healthy. No injuries. Nobody really hanging up on anything. I think that is such a big thing coming into the season when you can get rolling and get your team going when everybody's ready to play. I love this Timberwolves teams. It might be my favorite team other than the Wizards in the entire NBA. Moving on to my 2 seed, I wanted to put Denver at one. I really did. I think this Denver team is so, so good. I think you mentioned it earlier with MPJ. I think they're better. I think Cam Johnson is a better basketball player than Michael Porter Jr. First of all, Michael Porter can't pass the ball Jr., doesn't have an assist ever. He goes multiple games without assists. That doesn't work too well whenever he starts missing his threes. And last year he wasn't a super efficient player. Cam Johnson gave you 20 plus with the Nets. Think he can do the same thing in this offense. Teams are going to be worried about Jamal Murray. They're going to be worried about Nikola Jokic. That allows Cam Johnson to sit on the three-point line and snipe. And trust me when I tell you, Cam Johnson can sit at the three-point line and snipe. He did that in college at a very high level. I love Christian Brown. I think he's due for another step up. Could potentially be a most improved player watch list. And then Aaron Gordon. Defensively, great player. Athletically, an unbelievable player. You look at their bench, not much to say. You mentioned a lot of the big guys. Bruce Brown, huge addition. Tim Hardaway, love him around that team. But also, I love the young players and Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson, who can step in and become the next role players for this really good Denver Nuggets team. And then, last but not least, when Jokic is not on the court, Jonas Valanciunas is a very good backup center. You could argue he's one of the best in the NBA at that position. When he was starting for the Wizards last year, he looked great. He looked unbelievable as a starter on a really bad basketball team. Love Jonas Valanciunas as a backup to Jokic. Can bring them still high passing upside and actually shot some threes last year with the Wizards. So who knows if Jonas Valanciunas can just step in and be the guy. Again, the Nuggets are healthy. That is so important when you come into the season and have no injuries to worry about. And then we'll move, last but not least, into the number one team. This is the Oklahoma City Thunder that if they take it serious, if they lock in, and they really focus on winning basketball games in the regular season. Now, we don't know if it'll matter as much to them. They already got their ring. They already had their awesome season. This team can win 70 games. They are good enough to win 70 games. They have a roster from top to bottom that is the most loaded roster I've seen since those Warriors teams. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a defensive nightmare, but also gives you 30. Lou Dort is a all defensive team guy that can win Defensive Player of the Year. Jalen Williams is an all defensive team guy that can win Defensive Player of the Year. Oh, and he can give you 20 plus. Chet Holmgren is an all defensive team guy that can win Defensive Player of the Year. That's multiple defenders that can do that on this starting lineup. Isaiah Hartenstein is a great rebounder and an unbelievable paint beast that just adds to this team. Cason Wallace is a great backup point guard that can run up and down the court with the best of them. Alex Caruso is an all defensive player that can win Defensive Player of the Year. If he starts in the lineup, he easily could do that. So now we're talking about four players that are Defensive Player of the Year level defenders. No one else has two. So that is unbelievable because you can defend everybody with this lineup that they roll out there. Not even to mention they added Brooks Barnhizer last year out of Northwestern. Can shoot the three ball really, really well, brings them a backup four. And then Jalen Williams, when they're waiting on the return of some of their players, will be the backup center. And then you see the minutes where Holmgren will be on the court at center, and then Hartenstein will be out there without Holmgren. You don't really know who's going to step into that power forward role. Kenrich Williams can maybe do that when he returns. And we'll see how this lineup goes without Jalen Williams night one against the Rockets. Should be a really fun game, but I think this team right here is built to win 70 games. Hoppy, last but not least, you got anything else you want to say about the Western Conference?
I really liked your list as well, man. It's such a tight race in this Western Conference every year, and it's hard to pick and split those hairs throughout the list. I really like seeing the top two being the same. It's just going to be hard to see it being different than that. Jokic, he's one of my favorite players of all time. He's really, really just unlike anything we've ever seen
Yeah.
before. He's like a Larry Bird, and it's just insane.
Yeah, and again, a real difference maker. And we're talking about the two top teams having probably the one and two and the favorites to win the MVP this season, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me, and we will see you guys again sometime in the near future with some more NBA talk. Again, thank you guys so much, and peace.